Good morning. I need to follow up on this Quartz thing because I've moved on past it and I want to recap it before I start to forget what I did to get this working. So, okay, it works now with Quartz. So I have this, I even need to rename this. I'm not sure what to name it yet. There's a style guide here. I don't know if they have Quartz because I'm doing some of this live. I don't know, so something there. Sound, there's like recommendations. And this might be, yeah, it doesn't. I guess it would just be blueprint. Honest, yeah, it would still be a blueprint. Okay, so I gotta name this. Give it a better name because it's a blueprint asset. And I think where I'm getting hung up on is where it's located. It's located as its own blueprint, and I loaded all this Quartz logic in, which there's a great tutorial on this that has a walkthrough all this functionality. See if we can find it real quick. I guess I'll put it in the link to. Here we go. So this guy, this Quartz music system, uh, this is really helpful. I've listened to some of these, and there's more that I can do. Um, but I really just sort of stopped somewhere in the middle, like, 'cause I got what I needed, but I think I need to go back to it at some point because there is a problem with even this, and it's how I want it to start all silent, but sometimes it'll sneak through like a beat whenever it first starts playing. So this is your typical chord setup. Um, Actually, hold on music. Oh yeah, whoops. Okay, so on begin play, this is your typical chord setup. You create this clock, and then honestly, I just use the defaults here, and that's fine. But I suppose if you have a specific tempo you need things to move at, then you can adjust it. And all this boilerplate just gets it to start playing in sync. And so the layers are done here on this music layer load. And then I have added we have like 13 layers or something like that. And so I added a number of expected layers, and here are all of them. I think we're not using percussion 3, but everything else we're using. So where is it? Expected count. Yeah, I didn't even put that in there. So somewhere in there, sound classes. Oh yeah, here it is. So we created this list of sound classes. There's only 10 in there. Okay, it's even less than I thought. Yeah, so there's 10. So we have 3 arrays storing all these values, and I think all of these were needed. We needed the mixers and the sound classes, and that was the kind of the main thing to take away, is that you have to keep track of all of these things, the actual layer you're going to play, the real sound file, which is here. Then there's the mixer and the sound classes. So when you get to, where is it? Yeah, this initial music load here, and this is where I'm explicitly calling out which layers I want to kick off. Uh, I actually was going to mess around just doing one less, see how that felt. Then you have to have both the corresponding mix and the corresponding class. And if you don't, then it doesn't work. And so, or it doesn't play right. Because I thought I could just do like sound class music, because it was nested, just not to be confused with the engine one, but because it could be nested underneath music in this little chart here, I thought it would be sufficient to to say that use this sound class, but I really honestly don't understand why I need to specify this. Like, why can't I just adjust the mixer and it know its corresponding sound mix? Like, I don't really understand why. Um, so like, let me see if I can mess with this. See, because it knows right here its sound class is brass 1, and so like, I'm not sure, but I did have issues with that would not work appropriately unless I had it set up. So that was one thing that stuck me. The other, when the music gets cued, All right. Okay, so I'm setting the expected layer count, and this was additional beyond the tutorial um, to make sure that all the layers load before playing. And so then you run this play quantized, which is I've always been kind of fascinated by this like reverse grid flow, like in Unreal Blueprints. Like it's pretty much left to right, but then when it comes to delegates, they have this um, reverse flow, and I've tried to create this myself, and like I don't think you can do it without getting into the C sharp or sorry C++ code. So that is yeah, it's curious, but anyhow, that's how it connects up and it runs. So the result is good. Yeah, did you hear that? There was like a little tap. So the other thing to consider. Okay, so the other thing to consider is you can't actually turn the sound completely off. Turning it completely off just messes with the like optimizer. So I have, where is it? So you have our regular volume. I'm trying to figure out where I set, I see this is why I needed to do this recap so I can figure out where I put things. It's amazing how you just like forget. Somewhere I'm setting the volume to like nothing on all the layers, and I don't remember where I did that. So let's see if we have the event graph, silence all mixers. So I must be calling this somewhere. Can I find a reference? Where is this being called? Oh, right there. Yeah, it's just stuffed in the middle of on music layer load, which maybe this needs to be called sooner, perhaps. Now that I'm thinking about it, maybe that's all they need to do to get rid of that little. Oh, wait a minute. I don't think calling this sooner helps, but I'll try it. There's a delay before the start clock. I'll try calling it again, but effectively this is supposed to just drop the volume down. And I messed around with it, and this was sort of the smoothest thing at the time. But now that I'm like sitting here recording this, the results it like seemingly has come back somehow, and I don't really understand why. I think a lot of it has to do with when you're in the editor and those tracks load in memory, then it's a lot smoother. But the first time someone plays, then see if I could just try that delayed 0. First time someone plays it, you just have to, you hear that like chirp. Oh, okay, I think that worked a lot better. Yeah, there was no chirp sound, but it also could be the fact that the sound was already loaded in memory. So you might be able to hear these tracks. They're like super quiet. It's not actually silencing them, so it just drops the volume super low. So it's still there in the background, but it keeps it playing in time, because if you totally turn it off, then it just like cuts the track, and then the synchronization is ruined. So that's sort of a workaround. It's not truly silent. Maybe I could make it quieter. I don't know. Like, I'm not sure what the boundary is for, because I think it doesn't actually look for the number 0. It looks for a boundary, and if it's below that boundary, that threshold, then it just deletes the track. It takes it off the queue, so I don't even hear it anymore. And then, so that comes in, and then we should be able to click this and like get different layers to play. So that's the percussion, or actually it's strings deeper. So now the thud goes away, and then this will add drums. So then I'm gonna have something when you go deeper in here, here, yeah, and I get this. So yeah, working on it. Okay, so yeah, I'm working on the next part, which I got sucked into, and that's why I wanted to come back and just capture what the caveats were. So making this little helper function. Turns out that this does work, I guess. I don't, I mean, I swear I did this initially and it didn't do anything. But I don't know. You know how troubleshooting can be. Like sometimes, like it's not actually, this wasn't the problem and I could have had an issue somewhere else. And yeah, I can't say for certain. Okay, so one last thing, and I know this is already getting longer than I intended, but um, so I actually cut this layer out 3 here. So I'm gonna turn it back on. Um, it's arbitrary where the events are triggered, you know, in blueprints. So I try to make it sane. Right now the menu is triggering a lot of this stuff. So this WBP HUD is my menu. And so let's find it's probably in subscriptions. Actually, I don't know where it's at. I thought it was in here. Event graph. Local buttons. Nope. Subscriptions. It could be in here. Event map bounds. That one's, I'm not even using that anymore. Okay, here's one. Set music class override. And so for me, it's really specific. So whenever the match gear button is pressed, we trigger the drums here. And so there's a fork here of on or off. So if it's open, this is like debounce logic. I found a better way to do this, but this is the old way. It sort of works. I think it can be defeated somehow. If I'm not mistaken, there's a way to get past it. Like with a controller specifically, you can get past it. So I have to fix that. This is what will change it. So it's just setting volume to 1. You can mess with the fade in time. But then here's turning it off. So like if it's false, then it'll just turn it back to that low channel level. And so we're just specifically referencing the layers here. Where else is it? Okay, so over here is the fleet gear button press. And so we're turning on string layers 4 and 5. Um, and then equally turning it off. So I'm just going to change this to 3 and 4. Oh yeah, I got to change this too. So I got, I feel like there might be something I'm missing with this, like where I don't have to specify both. Like I don't really like that. I tried to like look at how to get the class out of the mix or vice versa, and I was unsuccessful. But there might still be a way that I'm just not aware of. Strings 3, strings 3. Okay, so there's that, and then I'll kick in 5 on I think this new fleet. I think that might be. So this one's interesting because like closing the new fleet, I haven't created a way to actually get out of that mode yet, so that'll be something to do. But I think right now all of this is, you just put it somewhere. Maybe I'll do another pin. Um, I already forgot what it was called. I forget. Is it set sound mix or sound mix class override? And so like this can play the add that bit layer, which has a, and so it's all just kind of up to us how we want to arbitrarily group that. Okay, so that captures that, um, and that's the sound stuff. So one last note is because of the way I imagine Still Pinion with like transitioning in between matches and customization pretty fluidly. I think putting it inside of a game object like this, or what is it called, a blueprint in Unreal, it's not an actor is gonna get unloaded. I think there's ways to persist it. I was looking at it, but maybe it's better to just put it in the GI, like all this logic, because this will stay persistent across like scene changes. And so that might be something I do is move this out and put it into the GI. But right now it's not a problem, so I'm just gonna leave it alone. I'm gonna leave this. I'm not gonna fix the name, let it be ugly, and then Someday I'll come back to this and refine it, but for now this allows us to at least just move forward. And when it comes to playing different what is it? Different soundtracks, I guess I'd have to recreate these three variable sets each time. So we could stuff this into one struct, and then that would kind of clean up this menu a little bit. Create a struct that has these things, and then I would reference that struct because it would be known at build time. Like this isn't something that we're dynamically constructing, which we are doing for the pub sub system, and that gets complicated. It does work and it's possible, so we do that here with the pub sub, but it's built at runtime. But doing this with the sound is it's really easy because you just set it up once, you have it here, and you can just refer to it visibly. And so we could still do that in the GI and have less issues troubleshooting. Anyway, okay, so I think that's it for the thoughts on this and where it's going to go. And maybe I'll actually finish watching that tutorial someday too. But I think for now this is solid enough for our use case for layered music. And now I'll get to the menu and spawning 3D stuff again. So I'm still working on that.